Good evening, everyone. My name is Dennis Chakey, and I'd like to welcome you to the Safe Schools Community Meeting tonight. First off, we'd like to thank all of you for coming. We know that you're battling the rain, and it really shows that you're making school safety a priority, and we're just glad to see you tonight. In light of some of the events that have occurred throughout the nation and in our schools, we know that student safety is on your mind. We know every day that your child leaves that this is on your mind. We're parents too. We understand how difficult this can be when you read in the paper and you see some of this in the news. We wanted to take this opportunity to assure you that it's on our minds, it's on the agenda. We're doing a lot of planning and preparation around keeping your child safe. So we're going to talk about a lot of different items tonight. We're going to talk about the student services aspect of keeping your child safe, their role. It's a more proactive role, which we'll get into shortly. We're also going to talk about some digital citizenship, how we can keep your child safe online. Now, I know mostly everyone in here is familiar with Fortnite, and that battle goes on daily in my house as well. So we're going to give you some tips tonight so you can understand who's on the other line of some of those communications and how to safeguard your child while they're playing. We'll also talk about some of the ALICE drills that we've been doing district-wide. We started this last spring. They've been very successful last spring and also this year as well. I know that this is a hot topic, the metal detector pilot program. We'll also discuss some aspects of that and the Safe to Say Something program. Now, we envision at the end that we could wrap this up before the study session begins to where we could have some discussion. One of the things that we take a lot of pride in here at Gateway is the relationships and the rapport that we develop with students and the relationships with this whole school community. You know, it's great walking into the schools. One of the things that stands out immediately is our principals place a huge emphasis on getting to know your child. Now, we're going to talk about a lot of different safety measures tonight, but it always goes back to the fact that, is there a relationship there between the leaders in the building, the community leaders? Will students come up and talk to the principal? Let them know what's going on. It's excellent because we'll go into schools, principals will be positioned at the front door, and they get a great account of what students are coming in. They get to know the students. That's the first place of emphasis. It's great because when we were at the high school today, we'll see students arriving and school police are with us. They're giving high fives to students. They're talking to students. They have that professional rapport, but more importantly, they'll know if a student doesn't belong. They'll know immediately because they've vested that time to get to know the students, and they know right away when something is not correct or when a student is here that isn't enrolled in our school. So that's a huge deterrent that we're very proud of. So before we start, we want to take this opportunity to introduce our principals, also our school police, and some other staff members, just to put a face to the name. Because we want to continue this partnership with you, and we want you to feel good about reaching out to anyone in this room because we're here to serve the community. We want to make sure that we have that relationship to where it's a two-way street. You know, we're not just asking the community to serve us. We want you to be within the schools, and we want to talk about making sure that we have a safe and secure environment for your child. So starting at Gateway High School, we have Justin Stevens, new principal this year. We also have Mike Barlack, who's the assistant at Gateway High School. As far as Gateway Middle School goes, we have Rocco Telly as the principal tonight. We also have from Mossad Middle School, Eric Knorr. And then from Cleveland Stewart Elementary, we have Mike Jack. We also have from University Park, Jennifer Hoffner. And we have our new principal of Ramsey Elementary, Miss Rebecca Gill, who is on about her second day. So take it easy on the questions for Rebecca, at least tonight. But also, one of the things that we talk about, we're extremely lucky to have the Gateway School Police. We do have Officer Brian Key, who is the supervisor for the Gateway School Police, and the Assistant Chief, Officer Steve Saranovich. Is Steve here? Okay. So as we start discussing some of these topics, like I said, at the end, we'll have a discussion, and please reach out to not only the school police, but the principals of your child's building so you can get some answers tonight. And like I said, we do a lot of talking about curriculum, instruction, assessment. There's a lot of great things going on in the Gateway School District. Our strategic framework here, we want to focus right here tonight on our strategic theme, number 1, assure a positive and supportive learning environment for students. Most specifically, this number 3, commitment to developing a positive rapport with all students. Like I said before, you're going to learn about some measures that we have in place, but the first thing is developing that relationship and taking a proactive approach. We want to make sure that students know that there are resources here for them. There's a student assistance program. There are outlets for them to discuss to make sure that we can stop something happening before it actually occurs. Tonight we have Miss Monica Griffin. She's our school psychologist. She's going to begin tonight's presentation to talk about student services role within Safe Schools.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Monica Griffith. I'm the school psychologist for the district. And I wanted to open up with just telling you a little bit about the supports that we do have in place already for students that they could access. The mandatory training that we have for the staff already in place. At the beginning of the school year, all the buildings did bullying prevention with their staff, came up with committees, came up with what to look for, what their theme in their building is going to be, and then how to kick off with the students, and talked about the anti-bullying initiative. With suicide prevention, we also had all of our staff 7 through 12 trained in, they used the More Than Sad program that came in. They talked about at-risk population, what signs to look for, how to help a student, how to talk to a student. They talked about myths and facts, which we thought was a good point to make, because some of the myths that we think about, we want to make sure that we're able to speak to the students and not be scared to talk about some of the feelings, depression, at-risk behaviors, depression, and things like that. So we had them come in. One of the things that I wanted to mention is that for the 17-18 school year, Gateway School District was recognized as one of the institutions that trained the most staff and students on suicide prevention. So we were one of the biggest training sites. We had some staff and students that were able to go to the walk and receive that award, which I thought was really a good recognition. One of the things Dr. Chakey mentioned was the Students Assistance Program. We talk about this a lot. We want the students to know that we're there. It's a K-12 program that we have our school counselors that sit. We meet bi-monthly. School counselors, building principals, myself. We have teachers. We have our social workers that will meet. We discuss any barriers to learning. We talk about how we can help the students. It can be as easy as doing a check-in with the student in the morning with a trusted adult. They can walk in, they can go to that teacher's classroom, they can check in, talk about things that have happened the night before, kind of put that social stuff away, the social media, any kind of those things that are happening, and kind of get on with their day. We also have things such as checking out as well, checking in with a trusted adult to be able to kind of leave things that are happening in school, be able to go on, do their homework, do their after-school activities, and know that they have that support from the schools. It also goes into a higher level of support as well. We have our SAP liaison with the county. So we partner with Turtle Creek Valley. So we're able to have a SAP liaison that's there that can help us if there's more severe problems that are happening. They do mental health screenings. They could hook up the parents with community resources that they don't know how. Service coordination is something that you're linked with a person in the community that can help you navigate some of those mental health resources that you don't know that are out there for your child. We also have Family Behavior Resources, which is another, right in Monroeville, right across from Gateway Middle School. It's an office that we partner with, that they have licensed therapists that come into the building, so you don't have to worry about getting your child to therapy after school. They do intakes, they come in and they work with the kids. So it's just things that we want them to know that we're available. They can talk to their principal, their school counselor, any teacher can get that referral into the SAP program that we can talk about and help them get the supports that they need. That's all.
Good evening. My name is Guy Rossi. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Elementary Education. My part of this is to talk a little bit about the digital citizenship campaign that we launched last year with Common Sense Media or Common Sense Education. Before I go any further, I want to thank our librarians, our library department, who really have embraced this and taken this on wholeheartedly, and they've done a great job with it, and just wanted to recognize them. We're actually recognized last year through Common Sense Education as a distinction for our digital citizenship. Sorry. So Common Sense Media is one of the resources we use to deliver instruction to students on digital citizenship, and it's not only for our students but for educators and parents at home. And I'll go through a couple slides. First off, this is the scope and sequence that we use. You can see the bands at the top. We go K to 2, 3 to 5, and 9 through 12. Now these spiral, these 8 topics stay the same, but spiral, and of course, we're teaching different things to kindergartners than we are 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. It's age appropriate as they move up the band. So it's everything from internet safety, digital footprint, reputation, privacy, security, all these things you see listed here that we deliver through the curriculum. Another great feature, as Dennis kind of alluded to, is some of the contemporary things, some of the things that are happening, and it's rapid. It happens fast. So Fortnite, over 125 million users on it on last count. So if you want some information on Fortnite, this is a great place to start. All the lingo, the V-Bucks, all that good stuff that the kids are spending their time on. You'll notice up here is the section for parents, educators, and advocates. So parents can click on there. For instance, movies, TV shows, books, apps. If you want information on those things, it's all right there for you. So this is a great example of the Fortnite one. That would kind of give parents some information on some of those things that you might not even know about that's happening, that could happen online with Fortnite. This is a great resource. I'll tell you, I use this at home. Even when we're doing Netflix movies, I'll type this in, and I can tell you I've nixed a lot of movies just by using this resource here. So if your child comes home and wants to go see Aquaman, for instance, you can simply go to movies and TV shows there, select the movie from the list. They're all recent as well. They're all up there. Gives you all the information that you would need or want to know about Aquaman. This is the parents' guide. All of them are listed here for every movie, from positive messages, the language, the violence. It's all there and rated for you. So you want to know exactly what's being said? They give you a little summary of some of the things that might be seen in the movie. And if there are any words in there that may be inappropriate, they will be listed there for you as well. So it really is a great resource.
We apologize to all the students if Dr. Rossi just ruined movie night for everyone. Now, moving to a more serious topic, we're looking at the ALICE drills. And the acronym for ALICE, this alert, lockdown, inform, counter, evacuate. All of you probably had an experience, maybe years ago, if you're in a public place or you're in the school, where it was just exclusively lockdown. If something would occur, places may go into a lockdown, or sometimes it was referred to as shelter in place. We're happy now that it's gone beyond that. We're not just thinking about locking down in a specific place. It's a great responsibility on teachers. It's a great responsibility on all staff, because now you're thinking about a combination of these tactics that you have to do in the event that there is an intruder in school. The first step may be locking down. However, there's going to be a series of alerts. Now, I remember years back where there would be code names for things. You'd have to make a code word for something, and you'd have to let the whole staff know what the particular code name was, which would mean intruder in the office or whatever. But our school police has led the initiatives now to where it's very clear communication. They're getting on the PA system, and they're giving real-time information about if there's an intruder in the building. And the adults that are responsible for the students are the ones that are making the decision on what to do. For example, if there was an intruder tonight, we'd be receiving information over the PA system. Perhaps they could say that there's an intruder down by the coffee shop, right next to the main office. Well, if I'm the teacher here that's responsible for all the students, I'm going to make that decision that we're going to run. We're going to get out of this room, we're going to make the left, and we're going to run out of the school. The other side of this is, if we hear the alert and they say that the intruder's at the cafeteria, that's in such close proximity to us that we're probably going to want to lock down here and barricade the door. But these are the types of things that we're practicing within our schools. We're practicing to make sure that in the event that something does occur, that we're prepared. It was great to see this kicked off last spring. I think Mr. Barlack was the first intruder at Moss-Side Middle School. And and we make sure that it's age appropriate as well. We did the first one here at the high school, and one of the school police officers actually dressed up as the intruder. And they walked through the school, they pounded on doors, teachers decided what to do. It was a very powerful experience. Kids even got together and moved throughout the hallways to a specific exit, and teachers decided what they were going to do. The great aspect of this is afterward, the teachers sat down and they had a tabletop discussion about what happened. You know, at times, maybe they made the wrong decision. Maybe a teacher took the kids out and the intruder was right there, but they talked about that. And they decided, what can we do better? We're even taking it a step further in the fire drills. Not only are we moving toward reconciling students. Anytime the fire drill goes off and we do a drill, the teachers go out and they have their roles and they make sure that they have all their students. The great thing about this, though, we're preparing for what if a student's not where they're supposed to be. So principals have been taking students in the middle of the drill and not telling anyone and taking them down to the office just to see if teachers are reporting that a particular student is not with the class. And we've observed some good things, because during this, we're kind of bystanders and we'll watch everything that's going on. And it's been a success as far as teachers getting on the radio saying, Joey wasn't in my class. Somebody finds him. They mention, oh, he's over here. He's with us. He's on the other side of the cafeteria. So we're taking all these measures to prepare ourselves so that we can make sure that your child's safe. The other thing, too, like I mentioned, it's age appropriate. So if you have an elementary child, it's not a scary situation where we have Mr. Barlack walking around knocking on doors. If you look up here, this I'm Not Scared, I'm Prepared book, that's been something that they've been working through. And it puts it in more of a sensitive discussion for elementary kids, but the concept's the same. Stay with the teacher. Let the teacher direct you. If we have to move, we're going to walk in a single file line and we're going to go to an exit to make sure that everyone's safe. All right? And we have our schedule last spring. We walked through all of these, and we're also, every school in the district has done this year as well. Another aspect that we want to discuss tonight, the metal weapon detector pilot program. And we want to preface this with, there hasn't been a plethora of events that made us want to do this. It's not a situation where we've seen a spike in weapons being brought to Gateway. That hasn't been happening. But we, as a team, sit back and we always want to prepare to make sure that students can be as safe as possible. So this is just a part of the package. We want to instill metal detectors just because it's another aspect that we can make sure that your kid is safe while they're with us during the school day. There's no reason why, we shouldn't have every deterrent we possibly can to make sure that we're safe. I mean, maybe 10 to 15 years ago, it would have been a negative situation where people would have thought, what's going on in that school? They have metal detectors. But we truly think now kids go down to Stage AE, to Heinz Field, to PNC Park, and it's part of the routine. And it makes me feel more comfortable when I go to places and I know that everyone's passing through a metal detector. It's just part of the culture. We had an opportunity to meet with students at Gateway Middle School. It's great when we get to sit down with students and talk about things where sometimes us as adults make us extremely nervous. And we think, oh, how are we ever going to have metal detectors? When we talk to student representatives at Gateway Middle, they were wondering why this hasn't been implemented before. We talked also with students at Gateway High School. We've actually had experiences where we had students stop us in the hall and say, why don't we have metal detectors? We said, well, it could be coming. We're going to talk about this. But so it's not such a sensitive topic where it's not needed. There are a few things that we're going to change as far as entry of students. Today at Gateway High School, we tested out the new bus drop-offs. The kids didn't pass through the metal detectors, but we tested a new drop-off procedure for students. For example, the buses came up alongside Gateway High School. They made the right still, but they looped all the way around the back of the sports complex, kind of closer to that fence, closer to 48. And then the buses came down around the side of it, and they parked 2 by 2, and then 2 buses were let off. Students walked into the sports complex, walked through the main hallway there, all the way through that long hallway, the pools to your right. They went through those doors, they made a left, they went up the steps, and then over the bridge into the high school. Now, eventually, when we roll this out with metal detectors, they'll be going through the metal detectors right there by the pool. But we wanted to get kids in the habit of going through this. And we also wanted to test the traffic patterns as well. Mr. Stevens said that was a success today. There were a few things that maybe we want to change, but it gave us the opportunity to think about some of this stuff before March 4th. Because we're thinking on March 4th that this is going to launch at Gateway High School, this pilot program. Now, Gateway Middle School, Mr. Telly has been working with his staff to come up with a plan for that as well. They've done their due diligence, and they're going to have students coming in door 18, that music hallway entrance. That's where the buses will be dropping students off. Again, it's a perfect scenario because there's a long hallway there, and students will be out of the elements. They'll have the opportunity to pass through the metal detectors there, also have an opportunity to go eat breakfast or whatever they may do as part of their morning routine, and then start their school day. One thing also about Gateway High School that I definitely want to mention as well, parent drop-offs and students that drive, they'll be entering through the auditorium entrance there. And that's another great scenario where they could be out, they come in, they're out of the elements, they can congregate right there, but then they'll be directed through the metal detectors and right into the school. All right? But jumping back to Gateway Middle, Mr. Telly also is going to have students come in the entrance door number 20 by the auditorium. That'll be for parent drop-off. And that's a nice area right there as far as that's going to be nice because they're right next to each other. So we'll have all the staff members there, the resources right there, and it should be a efficient start to the school day. All right, so we have one of our metal detectors set up here, and I kind of want to show everyone what they can expect. This isn't going to, by any means, this isn't going to be like when you're going to the airport. You're taking shoes off and you're putting it in bins and all of that stuff. I mean, this is going to be a situation that's appropriate for school. So we're also going to work with parents to make sure that you can reiterate to your child, you bring in a backpack, kind of do, how about school police, when they're coming in and they're congregating, unzip the backpack, make it easier, faster. In all the situations, there's going to be a metal detector set up like this, a cable next to it. So if I'm a student entering the high school, my backpack is all ready to go. So expedite the process. I walk up, say I'm coming in this way. There's going to be staff members set up over here. I can put my bag right here. The staff members here, they'll go through the bag and with the stick. Kind of quickly, I'll throw any items, your cell phone, got some keys, throw it down there. It's important to note though, there's going to be a lot of staff members right here, 4 or 5 people. So you don't have to worry about belongings being missing. We also have cameras that are installed in every site where metal detectors are going to be. Any event something gets stolen or missing, we can look right on the camera and see where it went. If somebody has something that they shouldn't, and they put it in the bin, we know who put it in the bin. We can safeguard that way as well. Once stuff comes through, let's say that it still leaks. There's going to be a police officer standing right here with the wand. They'll wand, maybe I forgot, I got something in my wallet here, coin or something, go in, and I'm on my way.
The lights are not random, but we're gonna take care of the admin on body.
Yeah, if it lights up, we can adjust the sensitivity.
Airport doesn't know that.
There is a Wi-Fi backup. Yeah, we are gonna have it plugged in. They'll jump from one to the next, and we'll have it plugged in the morning. But if we wanted to take one somewhere, we don't have it plugged there, the battery's backed up. So we'll get the one with the Wi-Fi. Maybe not at first. We're gonna try to pilot the program. We're gonna take, X amount of buses through, just to make sure that we have the process down. No, they're not. They're not. Well, we have about a half hour in the beginning of the day. And we're going to control how students get off their bus. We'll take 2 buses through. Yeah, it is. There's a lot more kids riding the bus. Also, Miranda is doing this.
We have 4 units in the sport complex, and there's 2 units in our toilet. Drivers and drop-off are staggered. You might only have maybe 10 to 12 students actually walking through metal detectors in the auditorium. We also stagger the sports complex. There's an officer there. There's an officer there that'll make sure. There's an officer there that'll make sure.
That not too many students are in the queue. And it's worded random, so if there is a backlog or becomes an issue with whether or not students will arrive to their classroom on time, we can modify that. It's still random by definition, but we're going to try to be effective and get as many kids through the system as possible. Okay, as mentioned earlier, 2 buses will be emptied at a time at the sports complex. If the volume of students becomes too great, we'll control the volume of students. And there's still officers at both locations for the student safety. I understand your concern. My daughter's in this district as well. I understand. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah. And one thing I'd like to add too, that would be a legitimate concern if it's a situation where we're lining up students and there's this long line waiting to get into the building. That's not going to be the case. The way that we've thought this out is we could fit hundreds of kids inside the facility. There's going to be an open flow of students walking into the sports complex. So there's not going to be that opportunity for someone to drive by and take a shot at anybody, because they're going to already be in the building. That's the same case for the auditorium as well. All the students are going to be in the building under our care, not standing outside in a long line. Gateway Middle as well. Yeah. 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 Yep. Can I stop you there, though? Because we could sit here until midnight to come up with what-if scenarios. What if somebody sleeps over here? Then they're here tomorrow morning, and they're waiting for kids. I mean, this is just an attempt not to come up and brainstorm about the what-if scenarios and how our kids can be harmed. This is just a deterrent that we're trying to do. And we think that the positives far outweigh the what-if scenarios that could potentially happen. Well, that's what I tried to address in the beginning, the fact that it's not because there's a spike in weapons. It's because we're trying to do everything as part of a package to make sure that students are safe. And the other thing is, we have all of our school resource officers that are here. I mean, these aren't security officers that are in a lot of other schools. These are former state police officers. These are former, well, even active school police. Yeah. Yeah. Where do your kids go? Okay, well that works because Mr. Stevens is here for the discussion portion that you can pick his brain, and Mr. Knorr is here that you could talk about Moss Side Middle. So we have that discussion built in. We'll be happy to answer any questions you may have there. That'd be another question you could have got answered at the discussion, but I'm happy to answer that now. That is going to be, they're already paid for through the Safety and Security Grant. We received $25,000 because we wrote a grant, so right through the grant. Not at this time. Alice drills, some of the things that we're going to do in the event that there's an intruder. But there are some other things that take place right here with some of our own students. If you take a look, this was staggering to look at. 37% of threats of violence, bullying, etc. are sent electronically. The one thing that really stood out to me, 80% of school shooters actually tell someone about their plans. They put out those warning signs. And also looking at students and safeguarding them, making sure with bullying, anything in the event of a potential situation where they're harming themselves, there are signs there. And like I mentioned before, how we want to develop a relationship with students, they will tell us things. It's great when we develop that respect and rapport with students, they're more than happy to start telling us some things. So that brings us to the Safe to Say Something program. All of the students were trained from grades 5 through 12. Gateway Middle School did theirs on Tuesday, January 22nd. The high school, January 25th. Mosside Middle School, the week of January 22nd. We wanted to show you this video because this video kicks off the importance of the Safe to Say Something program. And this is the actual video that students saw.
Callers indicating she thinks there's someone shooting in the building.
Frightening headlines across America. 2 high school shootings in one day.
A high school sophomore being attacked by a junior cheerleader.
County 911. Oh my God, my friend has been shot. Okay, what was he shot with? A shotgun. How old is he? He's 16.
A funeral is being held this morning in Florida for Rebecca Sedgwick. The 6th grader committed suicide last week. Authorities say she suffered nearly a year of cyberbullying.
They say he attacked another 14-year-old on Thursday as he was walking home from school.
A high school football favorite opens fire in a cafeteria, killing one and injuring others.
Supposedly he tweeted about it last night. No one took him serious. I think he said that he was going to bring a gun to school, and I think everyone just kind of blew it off like he was joking.
Minutes before firing his gun into a crowded cafeteria, he sent family members a text message.
The latest crime involves Apex High, where a student is accused of tweeting a threat to shoot up the school.
So this was a presentation that kicked off with the student trainings. Sparked a lot of conversation among students, and it got us to the point of January 14th where the Safe to Say Something program launched. And we're going to go through a couple aspects of, thanks Mike, a couple aspects of this. You've probably heard about this already. It's been on the news and in some of the papers. This anonymous tip line, moving forward, this tip line is going to replace the old anonymous tip line that we had on the bottom of our website. This Safe to Say Something tip line is mandated by the state. It's through a partnership with Sandy Hook, and it is also mandated by the Attorney General's office. So there's a couple ways that you could submit a tip. You could do it through the mobile app. You could call the 800 number, or you could go on the website. And it was funny because we realized, you know, I realized my age because I'm thinking about the 800 number, and the presenter at PDE said not even 1% of students use the 800 number. It's all website or really the app. So you could actually download the app right from the App Store if you have a Google phone, or even if you have an iPhone, it's right there in the Google Play Store or in the applications for through Apple. But here's how it works. You can actually go on there and you just report a tip anonymously. I'm going to go through. You may even want to take, how about if you want to take 30 seconds, go into the App Store. You can download it right on your phone. It's just safe to say something, PA, and it'll come up and you can put it right on your phone. But in order to save time, you know, I'll go through some of this. You can maybe work through that later. But when you go on here the first time, it's going to ask you to sign in. You have to create a 4-digit passcode, which can be anything. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4. But the thing is, when you come back to this app, you're going to have to enter 1, 2, 3, 4 again. So it's going to be a passcode that you create that's exclusive to you. Then you'll go on and you'll enter the school name. And there's a drop-down menu there where kids can enter exactly what school they want to put the anonymous tip for. Here's a screenshot that shows some, when you go on there, you hit the submit a tip, it'll give you a menu of items that you can select. It can be anger issues, assault, bullying, anything the whole way through. Right here, you provide details, students' names, what's actually occurring. Right here, the person that's involved. If there's a situation where you want to report that somebody's harming themselves, students would put that particular person's name in there and submit the tip. You can even attach photos, videos, Instagram posts, whatever it may be. Now, our district has a safety and security team. We have a 5-member team that is the lead for the Safe to Say Something. It's myself, Dr. Rossi, Dr. Short, Mr. Telly, and also Officer Key. Now, at any point, if it's the middle of the night and a tip goes through here, the first thing the tip goes to the Office of Attorney General, and it gets triaged. If it's a tip that says somebody's going to come to the school and hurt some people tomorrow, then obviously that's a life-saving tip. So that's going to go straight to us. We're going to get that tip. Well, actually, they're going to call us first. They're going to start going through our team. I'm the first person. They'll call me. I have the number saved in my phone as Safe to Say Something. Let's say I don't pick up. I'm sleeping. Then it goes to Dr. Short. If he doesn't pick up, then it goes to Dr. Rossi until somebody picks up. It's great because they don't just leave a message and say, well, we left a message. All right, we'll see how this happens. It actually goes until someone picks up the phone. When you pick up the phone, then it's all logged in this system. And we enter into this P3 tip system. And the great thing about this is it conducts an audit. If I receive a tip at 6 in the morning on my phone and it's a text, as soon as I touch on the text, it puts it into the system that says, Dennis Chakey read the text. It's already in the audit. Then whenever we act on it, it keeps a running log of that as well. Let's say whatever school it's at, if it's at CSE, then Mike Jack is also going to receive the tip. So if it's a situation where he has to call a student down and talk with them about the fact that, whatever issue it is, if he talks with the student, you get the counselor involved, everything he may do, he then puts it into the P3 tip system, and it inventories everything that was done, and he can close it out. So we're making sure that everything is being followed as far as safeguarding our kids. It's an excellent, excellent system. But like I said before, it gets triaged to life-saving tips. They're going to call us right away. Or another tip that's not necessarily life-saving, but somebody is having mental harm or something like that. We'll still get the tip, but we may get it in the form of a text. And then we have to follow along with it to make sure that we take care of that particular student. If somebody logs on and they say something ridiculous like, I don't like a particular teacher, then it gets disregarded as not a life safety tip. We still get the information. Principals will get the information and they can act on it and see what's going on with that particular situation, but we won't get it in the middle of the night. It's not categorized as a life-saving tip. So it's been an excellent system so far, and we've already acted on a few tips. Also, the website, if you want to go to the website, safetosaypa.org, to submit a tip, and it walks you through, kind of self-explanatory. Also, I mentioned our old anonymous tip line. If you go onto our website, the Safe to Say is replaced, the old anonymous tip line. It's located on the bottom of every district webpage. Like no matter where you go, it's always at the bottom when you're on the web page. Whether you're at one of the schools, you're looking at the departments, or wherever you may be as far as that website goes. Or you can do it by phone if you wish. Not many students do, but maybe some people my age may. And everything's anonymous. All right? So that's the Safe to Say Something program. Now, as promised, we definitely want to continue this discussion. You know, feel free to get up out of your seats if you want to see the metal detector, if you want to discuss anything with principals. I think our superintendent, Dr. Short, is going to say a few words to close out our meeting tonight. And but when he's done, please stick around. Let's have some good discussion in order to safeguard our kids. And again, I just want to thank everyone for making this a priority and being here. We definitely value your input, and without you, we can't really accomplish much. So we're happy that you're part of this decision-making process and making this a great district. So thank you. Dr. Short.
Thank you, Dr. Chakey, and all the administrators, principals. Thank you for showing up tonight. Baby boomer generation. You don't have to raise your hand. Could you imagine back in the day talking about all this? Probably not, huh? Nah. Generation X, millennials, starting to have that conversation. Been with this district nearly 30 years. Had the pleasure of serving the communities of Monroeville and Pitcairn. As a teacher, principal for nearly 20 years, central office superintendent for the last 3 years. No doubt things have changed. And with that, safety and security of the number one resource we have, which is our children, is paramount. And this district will certainly do everything we can do to ensure that our kids are safe when they come to school every day to learn. And we want to make sure that they're comfortable in the learning environment. April 20th, 1999. Are we familiar with that date? Columbine. As a principal here at Gateway High School, the unthinkable happened at a high school where 13 were killed, over 20 wounded. And when I say the unthinkable, it was the unthinkable. I can remember that day vividly. Students who were wearing certain garb were identified as a possible shooter based on the events that happened in Columbine. But it was from that incident that schools across the nation began to look inwards to ask the question, are we doing enough for our children. Since that time, and you have to understand, at Gateway High School, we had probably 1,700 students walking the halls. There were no security guards. There were no police. There were no cameras. It was a different time, a different culture. Since then, as of today, there are 160 cameras alone on this high school campus. Interior, exterior, 160. Between Gateway Middle School and Mosside Middle School, over 95 cameras. And these are not, and Micah, correct me, digital. They are digital, but they're not the old style where they would delay. You'd look at something and see another picture maybe 2 or seconds later. These are truly high definition cameras that we utilize every day. And fortunately, with our Gateway School Police, we do have someone monitoring a television set that randomly sorts through probably all 160 cameras. All of these measures are designed to help deter that individual who perhaps has an idea to harm students, staff, etc. It's something I think about every day, believe it or not. Safety and understanding that your children have the trust in our system and you have the trust in what we're doing is number one for me, and I know for this board. We have been the leaders, we have been the innovators, and we will continue to do so. Understanding that these metal detectors are in no way an indication of anything going on within our buildings. Quite contrary to what I have seen 20, 30 years ago when we did not have these devices. Our buildings are safer today than they were 20, 30 years ago. Statistically proven. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out tonight. It's important to all of us that we're vested, truly ingrained in the culture and understanding that we can communicate with one another to better our educational system, including safety. I know Dr. Chakey and Dr. Rossi wanted to at least have a discussion amongst our administrators and school police. I think we could do that at this time. Is there a proper setup for this?
No, we were just going to do kind of an informal thing where please, everyone can get up and go see the principal that may be in your principal in your child's school and just have a one-on-one with them. We're going to be transitioning to the study sessions. We're going to be moving the metal detector out, doing some other things. But again, we thank you. Our administrators are going to be sticking around for any type of discussion you may want to have. We'll be here as well. Please.
Thank you.